So if you followed my blog for a while, you know I'm not a huge baker, but there are a handful of fantastic baking recipes on the blog. This one is at the top of my list. It is a chocolate banana bread that is paleo compliant, and I think it's absolutely perfect. I'm very picky about my baked goods. If they're paleo and they don't taste like the real deal, I don't want it. This tastes like the real deal and it's absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna show you how to make it. We're gonna start off with some ripe bananas. These look terrifying. You need 1 cup of mashed banana. This could be anywhere from like 3 to 4 medium-sized bananas. I'm gonna start with 3. I think that's all we need. All right, so I'm just gonna mash up these bananas using the back of a fork until they're really mushy. Like, think baby food. That's the mush that you want. Baby food bananas. Almost like a puree. All right, get my cup. Well, pretty perfect. 1 cup exactly, mashed, overly ripe bananas. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add our second element of sweetness to this recipe, since we're not using refined sugars in this recipe to keep it paleo friendly. 1/2 cup of maple syrup. This is gonna help sweeten the loaf and keep it refined sugar free. Next, we have 2 eggs, room temp preferably, to help it cook nice and evenly. So we got 1 going right into there, and 2. So for our oil, we're gonna use this liquid coconut oil. You can also use avocado oil in this recipe. You just want something neutral in flavor. But I do like this liquid coconut oil. It's not as coconutty as like a regular coconut oil, and you don't have to melt it and cool it. So we've got 1/3 of a cup, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and you're just gonna want to whisk this until the eggs are broken up, and this is very, very well combined. Okay. All right, so now for our dry ingredients, which I know a lot of professional bakers are gonna frown at me about this, but I'm gonna put them right into here. Usually people put them in a separate bowl, whisk them up, but I do it like this all the time and it turns out fine for me. So what we're gonna start with is espresso powder. Now, the reason why you'll see espresso powder in a lot of baked goods that are chocolatey is because it amplifies that chocolate flavor, which is what it's gonna do right here in this recipe. So we've got 1 teaspoon of espresso powder. And again, this is just gonna help deepen that beautiful chocolate flavor. Next, we have some cinnamon. It has a lot of cinnamon in it, which it's gonna deter, when you look at the recipe, you're gonna think 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, but I think cinnamon is an essential ingredient in banana bread. It just gives it that lovely, warm banana bread flavor. And 1.5 teaspoons is the perfect amount, in my opinion. And then next up, our cocoa powder. We are doing 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. Next up, we have tapioca flour. If you don't have tapioca, you could sub in arrowroot flour in this recipe as well. It's gonna keep it gluten and grain-free. So I've got 1 cup tapioca going in, 1/4 of a cup of almond flour. You're gonna wanna use like super fine almond flour. I use the one by Bob's Red Mill in all of my paleo baked ghouls. Paleo baked goods, not ghouls. 1 1/4 of a cup of the almond flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm just gonna add a pinch or 2. Get this nice and smooth, whisk this up. You're gonna wanna make sure all those clumps are broken up. And again, if you wanna do your dry ingredients separately, because you're more sophisticated than I am, I totally support that. All right, so I've got that all set. Now it's time for our chocolate chips. Half a cup. So we're gonna use a little bit more on the top just to make it nice and pretty. Just gonna fold those in like so. And that is the base to our chocolate banana bread. Now, the only other thing that I am gonna do, which I should have done at the beginning when I preheated the oven, but again, this is the type of baker that I am. Please accept me for who I am. Is I'm gonna get my parchment paper and line it in the loaf pan. So the way I do this is take a pair of scissors, kind of cut it down to make a sling in the loaf pan. Put a little bit of avocado oil, just kind of to be the glue to our parchment paper. There we go. There she is. Okay. So I've got that in there, and then I'm gonna spray one more time with the avocado oil spray. And now we are going to pour it ever so awkwardly in. This is like the Vanna White way of pouring. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna kind of do that, get it nice and flat. And then you're gonna want just like a tablespoon more of chocolate chips on the top, just to be pretty. And then I am, hold on, coming. I am a big fan of salt on my desserts, especially when it comes to like brownies and chocolatey things. I just think it helps balance out the flavors and amp it up, and that touch of sweet and salty is perfect. So I do a little bit of flaky sea salt on the tops as well, and it just looks pretty. All right, and then this is going in the oven at 350. It's going to take 45 to 55 minutes, and then we're gonna let it cool for a while. So it's gonna go in the oven now. Okay. Oh, she's pretty. Right. Off we go. We're going to let this cool for 20 minutes before we carve into it. So I've been patiently waiting. It has been cooling for 20 minutes. The worst part of this recipe is waiting for it to cool. So we are gonna slice it. Just lift it up with that sling that we made earlier. Comes right out. And you're gonna want a serrated knife, and we're gonna slice it into slices. I'm gonna save this end piece for somebody else because I'm more of a middle piece kind of gal. Katie, I'm just kidding. You can see how everyone's favorite word, moist and delicious. This loaf is, oh gosh, chocolatey, beautiful. I have a plate. I have a cup of coffee. This is like the perfect afternoon snack. It's the perfect thing for breakfast, and it's also perfect for dessert. Perfect. If you want the full recipe for this delicious chocolate banana bread, I'm gonna put the recipe here, and then also you can find many more recipes on my blog, thedefineddish.com. Better?
Great shot. Yeah.
Cheers. It truly is amazing.